Welcome to Jackhowardcolor, the podcast. Today's guest is Amber Mcmahen from Detroit, Michigan. Amber's a 9 times BTC finalist, which is absolutely amazing. She's made some big changes in her career. She's a mom, she's a wife, she's a busy, busy working stylist. Come listen to the story. Welcome back to Jackhowardcolor, the podcast. Today's guest, I'm super excited to have her here. I met this woman at BTC. She is an all-round go-getter. She's a mom of 2, a wife, a human being, and a kick-ass hairdresser. So Amber Mcmahen, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, how are you?
It's so good to see you. It feels like it's been ages since I saw you in that swimming pool, right?
Yes.
But Amber, so, you're in Detroit, Michigan, so you're not that far away from me. You're probably very cold at the moment there as well, I would have
Yes,
thought.
it's freezing today.
Freezing, right?
Yeah.
But you're a 9 times BTC one-shot finalist from 1919 to 1921. 9 times.
Yes.
You're also a Bellamy Pro hair artist, which is extensions, of course, and you do some fantastic makeovers on there. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that part of the journey too. How did it all start for you, Amber? Did you know that you always wanted to be a hairdresser?
Yes, when I was in high school, I wanted to go to college for architecture and interior design, always into the fashion, but that's kind of where I wanted to go. And I decided quickly on in college that it definitely wasn't for me. Wanted to go to beauty school, but we didn't grow up with a lot of money. So financing the end of it wasn't really an option. So at the time I was working at a salon, locally, and they offered me an apprenticeship. So
that's really interesting for me in that moment, right? Because generally you hear of hairdressers in the USA, they have to go to beauty school. They either go when they're in school or they go when they're as their college piece. But you were in college and no cash around to go to beauty school because it's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but you've got an apprenticeship.
Well, it was supposed to be. So the owner of the salon's assistant still had some time to finish out. So I dropped out of college and then was waiting for the apprenticeship. And then they ended up opening up another salon. So the apprenticeship was an option. The owners were just too busy. And right around that time, actually, the director of Paul Mitchell's school that was just opening up in our area came into the salon and told us how they were opening. And so I went and did a tour, and I went home, and now husband at the time, boyfriend, very early on, I was telling him about it, and his mom actually offered to co-sign for me. We were pretty serious. But at the time, the school wasn't quite accredited yet. So they weren't accredited yet. So the schooling was far less expensive before they were accredited. And then I think it was within, the first couple of months of them being open, they finally got accredited. So it literally just all completely fell into place. And then shortly after that, I left that salon and was doing the front desk at another salon, while I was in beauty school, graduated from there, and, we were in the talks of assisting and, doing those kind of things. And then I got the opportunity to open my own salon.
Wow. Hold on a minute.
Yes.
Hold on a minute. So you're at beauty school and you've got 2 jobs going, which is very much an American story, I think, really. That
three actually.
3 jobs going at beauty school. It's the hustle, right? It's the make it happen thing that seems to be ingrained in the American psyche. Yeah.
Very, very much so.
But to qualify beauty school and then to go and open a salon, that's huge, right? I mean, that's massive.
I think because I was so young, and there was no fear of failure. So I got I was bartending at the time that I worked at the salon, and then I was in beauty school. So I would go to school from, I think it was like 8 to 5 or something. And then Monday through Thursday, I would go to the salon. And then Thursday after the salon, I would go and bartend. And then Friday nights and Saturday nights, I would also bartend as well. So I had Sundays off.
Wow, that's a lot of energy, right? When did you see the boyfriend?
Well, so during all of this, we actually decided to have a condo built. So the day I actually started beauty school, within that week is when we closed on our condo. So now I also had the responsibility of, a mortgage. So I had to work. There was no option. I had to make money, and you do what you have to do. So we didn't see each other much, but I'm so blessed to have him because he's always just let me be me and, follow my dreams as I do him, so truly without him, I don't even know I would have had the motivation and the stamina to do it, but the support system, he's amazing,
Yeah, support systems are so important wherever you are in the world. And it's really nice to hear somebody talking so openly about it rather than saying they just did it on their own, right? Because nobody does it on their own.
No. Yeah. So, and then when I was bartending, I was talking with the owner about, he asked, you graduated school, what are your plans? And I'm like, oh, me and my brother-in-law, we're gonna, open up a salon. And we had this, he's like, oh, you should speak to my ex-wife. Our daughter went to beauty school. And, it's always good to have, a money backer. And I was like, oh, sure. So she ended up coming up to the bar the following night when I was working and asked if we could have lunch. And we had lunch. And I think that was in November, I want to say. And then February 15th, tomorrow, would be the anniversary of it. We opened up a salon, or we signed the lease, and then we opened up that September.
So how old were you at this point?
I was 22 when we signed the lease, 23 when we opened, with no experience whatsoever. And it was 18 chairs and a full spa.
Wow. So huge.
Talk about figuring it out as you go was the theme. Yeah.
And what do you think was your greatest hurdle at that point, right? The biggest challenge?
I want to say really hiring one was, we had a really phenomenal location, right on a busy road. It's like the corridor of our township, and very, very busy road. I think at the time, if I'm remembering correctly, it's like 100,000 cars a day or something passed. So, the location was right out in the open, and we had quite a people apply. But the issue that I felt like I was having early on is I was so young, and everyone that I was interviewing was older than me, so I kind of felt I had the confidence to do it. They say fake it till you make it. And in that situation, I don't necessarily 100% believe in that, but in that situation, I had to, deliver, because we had this beautiful location and, wanted amazing things for it. And then also just the knowledge of, every aspect of numbers, running a business, product lines, color lines, how to run a spa that, I wasn't familiar with it all. And I barely assisted even prior to this. So I went from beauty school to, I think it was a few weeks of assisting to opening up an 18-chair salon with no clientele, barely any clientele. So
it's pretty phenomenal, right? Because it's like that is a huge leap of faith, right, in yourself and what you're doing.
Yeah.
But the majority of salons in the UK are about 4 seats, and so 18 chairs, it is a big space.
Oh yeah, and the salon that I had worked at, the owner of the salon was one of my biggest mentors. The original one that I was going to do the apprenticeship at. And her and her husband just ran such a phenomenal salon. And I want to say there was like 27 chairs in that salon. And the salon I'm at now, there's 40 chairs and they have 4 locations. So larger salons aren't necessarily uncommon, I want to say here, or at least in Michigan. But I only had worked in a larger salon. So that's what I initially envisioned for it, but not really realizing, I knew what I was getting myself into. I just, looking back and trying to put myself into that headspace, that just failure wasn't an option. It had to succeed,
And did it?
So early on, I think within the first year, we really realized, I realized that this partnership just wasn't going to work out. She had one of her daughters does hair, and then the other 2 didn't. And I won't go into details too much because they're still open, but I think it was within the 3 years, it was almost on the mark of us signing the lease. I ended up, but another story, I got married, and a week after I got home, we decided to part ways. So at that time I was 25, and we had to, go through litigation and the whole process of parting ways. Probably the best thing that's ever happened to me, just realizing that, you can't trust people. But at 22 years old, I mean, I think I trusted everyone. Yeah. And just the knowledge of running a business, the creative end of it, the books, the managing people. I think I would, even though at that time in my career, it was, I don't want to necessarily say devastating, because it had to come to end. It was a very vile situation. And I learned so much that you would never learn those things in school, in business school, in cosmetology school. I mean, I could just, every situation about it, I'm so beyond grateful. And when it all ended, I had to find a job in it in one day, because I had this massive clientele. Within my first fiscal year of doing hair, I did over 6 figures. So it was like, I opened a salon and I bartended the first couple of months to pay for an assistant. So for me, it was, I had this certain vision, and I couldn't afford an assistant at the time because I was building a clientele. So I bartended on the side also to promote myself, because at the time there wasn't Instagram. You didn't use Facebook. Yes. It was all marketing and referrals. So I did that until I could afford to pay all my bills, and then also pay an assistant. And that only took a few months. I'd say it was like 4 months, if I'm remembering correctly. And then from there on out, is now that I was just focusing on myself and the salon, I mean, it just skyrocketed. So I maintained that. Yeah.
It's amazing to hear the drive that you have, right? I felt that energy when I first met you, that you were driven to be successful. And in fact, at that BTC show, I felt I was surrounded by super driven people, full stop,
Yes.
And it's so easy to look back on life and sort of say, well, in 2020, what's it called? 2020 vision or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
To sort of see those insights. And when you're in it, it's really difficult to get through that, but you still pushed through all of it. And got a job the day after you decided to sort of say goodbye to the partnership.
Yeah. So I had to call my distributor. And at the time, we were using a certain color line. And I'm like, this is a situation that happened. I'm going to end up having to go through, litigation and attorneys to get, bought out, and, the whole scenario of all of that. And she referred me to this woman, Kim, that owned a salon. And they gave her a heads up. I called her. I believe that was on like a Thursday, I want to say. I was off Friday, and I knew things were kind of going south. So for a couple months prior to that, I was going into the computer system and deleting my clients' information. And then I had to delete the log because it was not good. But I knew that they would end up trying to contact all of my clients. So it was a long year that year. There was a lot of stuff that had happened, and I had to protect myself. But at the same time, when you're part owner in something, you can't just walk away. There's, legalities they can hold you liable for, So
you have to face the music.
Yeah, I had to stick it out. And it was the hardest, probably one of the hardest things I've ever been through in my life mentally, because there was just a lot of stuff that just wasn't right, and then obviously being young and not ever experiencing anything like this. And I'm 24, 25 when this was going on. So like you're partners with people that, a woman that is very wealthy. And then there's me, I couldn't, pay to be in litigations and hire a forensics attorney and, nitpick the books. I mean, you get into that stuff and I would lose everything, so
you want to get out as safely as possible, don't you? Really?
Yes. So, yes. Yeah. So after all of that happened, I went to this woman welcomed me with open arms. And I had one day off, contacted all of my clients, got them all back on the books, and pretty much worked 8 a.m. to 10, 11 o'clock at night every single day to recover from it. And kind of lost a sense of who I was there for a little bit, because here I am so young. I opened this, big, gorgeous salon, and no one quite understood how it happened because I was so young. And they'd be like, wait, you're the owner. And it almost, when I did own a salon, I was kind of embarrassed by it, because people would look at me like, how did you do that?
I would have been more uncomfortable and embarrassed about it not working out. That's where I would have been. I would have felt some internal shame. Not that there's any shame in something not working out, but I would have really struggled with that piece. The failing piece. I'm not really good at
yes.
that.
Yeah. And it was such a horrible time, and so much had happened that I think I mourned that part and dealt with, even though no one knew it was happening, none of the staff knew it was happening, throughout this whole process. But I started suffering. I had like acid reflux from stress. And I'm someone that can tolerate quite a bit. I work well under pressure. But during all of that, I think I mourned the loss of the salon before it happened, because I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And it was such a bad mental state to be in for almost an entire year, that when it did happen, it was like, all right, like as soon as they locked the doors on me, I had found out they changed the locks. As soon as it happened, it was like, okay, game on, let's go. Let's get this done and over with. And it wasn't easy by any means, but the moment it was all done, the health issues I was having were gone. It's just being in such a very unhealthy environment for so long. You don't even realize it, but it does to you.
It really does. It really does impact you. That unhappiness, and you just keep going, but it ends up, it's like flogging a dead horse, isn't it? I mean, it just drags you down. Yet you still managed to get out of it. And what was interesting, I thought, was that you sort of said, well, then I was doing clients from 8 in the morning till 10 at night. I mean, hustling, drive, pushing forward. I mean, what a story. What a beginning of a story.
Yeah. And that was the first 3 years of my career. It started off, and it just went so quickly. And I didn't even know, I guess I figured out at what I was doing as I did it. And no guidance. My business partner at the time didn't know anything about the industry. She wasn't a hairdresser. Her daughter had just got out of beauty school as well. And when I tell the story, it makes me like smile and laugh, because who does that at 22 years old, right out of beauty school? And I did. And I truly 110% think now where I'm at in my career, I've been in the industry for 14, almost 15, it'll be 15 years in June that I graduated beauty school. If that did not happen, I feel like God makes everything happens for a reason, because if that did not happen, eventually I would have opened a salon and I wouldn't be able to focus on myself. And I'm such at a happy point in my career and life. And I'm so blessed to be working for who I do work for. And I can truly solely focus on myself, because I always want to branch out and help everybody and, help people grow and make everyone successful. But at the same time, when you're doing that, you have to take focus off of yourself. And I think at this point, yeah.
I think so many people think that opening their own business or being their own business is going to be the easy option, the better option, because then they become their own boss, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that what we've seen in the last few years as people have gone that way, we've also seen people really struggle with how difficult it is, because it takes a certain character to run a business. And usually you need a great business manager behind you as well, because you can't be the artist, the hairdresser you want to be, and manage the staff, manage the books. There's a lot involved in it, even if you're on your own. It's really tough. It's really tough. But I like the fact that you figured out that you don't want that.
Yeah. And I think from that point, I was at that salon for about 8 months and just realized it was not my home. I was very grateful for her giving me my home, but I just knew that it wasn't for me. And someone had referred me to Ralph Bianchi, and he's very well known in our community. I mean, he's Bianchi's salon. I mean, there's 4 locations.
Yes.
And they're all 20 minutes apart.
I've been to I've been to 2 of your salons many years ago when I lived here before. So, and they're beautiful.
Yeah. And
I remember Royal Oak.
Yes. Yeah. They've been in the industry. They've been open for over 40 years now. And now they own 2 beauty schools. They're opening up a second one that should be open, I think in the next few months. And they've been in it for so long. And when I met with Ralph, it was just, I had such a good feeling, because at that point now I had moved. This would be my second move in less than a year. So it had to be done very strategically, so I didn't lose clients, and my sole focus was just finding a home where I can stay and, finish out my career. At that time, my main focus was just I just wanted it to be over, because that 8 months, it still wasn't over. I was still doing through all the lawyers and litigation and all of that. So once that all ended, I knew it. So I came to Bianchi's, and I'll be here 11 years this year.
Nice.
And I'm very open with them. I'm super close with them. And, throughout these 11 years, it has crossed my mind of like, I want to do something else. I want to do something. I want to leave an impact on the industry. I want to help people. I want to help people grow, because I feel for me, I've had such success behind the chair. And I've evolved. I try to every single year reevaluate and figure out how to stay relevant. And, but I still know every single year, I really look at how blessed I am to be where I'm at. And they do run a phenomenal business.
What does home look like to you when you're talking
as far
about
as the salon?
Yes. Yeah.
I would say, I always say that, we're so busy behind the chair, and I swear I love what I do, but I look down for a living. Right. And for me, I like being around other creatives, but I'm also I like being in the mix of it, but away from it. So as far as referring to a home, I need somewhere where I'm surrounded by creatives. But I also need the environment to be well ran and calm, if that makes sense. I need a support system. I have that at home, but in the salon environment, it's very important for me to have a support system along with being around other creatives. It's hard to explain the environment, but have you met Ralph?
Yes.
the Bianchis. They just let you do you, they let you be you, they let you do you, and whatever your dreams are, they'll assist you in trying to make those. But at the end of the day, it's your job to.
It's a great sign of a good boss, I've always felt.
Yes.
And I mean, I had great bosses in the States. And then when I moved to England, I had a few dodgy ones, who's maybe they had their agenda, but didn't really want you to fit. They just wanted you to fit in their agenda rather than let you blossom. And then I worked at Paul's and still do work with Paul. And they let me be me. And it was so important because I'm married to somebody who lets me be me.
Yes.
And I can be my best in that. And they can still point out where I could be better or where I could like tone it down. But the support in that and the safety in the way that feels allows you to really produce some really kick-ass, wonderful work.
Yes. Yes. And coming in here, it was, my clientele is so large, coming in here, I had always, at my salon, I had 2 chairs and I'd have a third if I needed it. And then at the salon I was at for a short period of time, I had 2 chairs. And when I came here, it's a commission salon. And I just said, I don't know, how many chairs you have, but I need 2 or 3 because I like my clients to be next to each other. Because if I'm, highlighting for an hour, got to go to the next, and then, make my way around. So it's, it's got to be, I can't have one over here processing another one. And they were like, yep, absolutely. Whatever you need, so they just have always been so supportive and just kind of, if I want to use, if I want to try something out as far as a different color, if we don't carry it, I just do me, and they're always there to support and fall back on.
I love having 3 chairs. I love being able to work like that. It's a tough way to work because, of course, you're not doing one person from start to finish. You're doing 3 people from start to finish, and you're hustling. But I do love that kind of energy that it gives. I don't think I could do the 18 to 24 clients a day anymore myself.
That's what I used to do.
Because it's a lot, right? It's a lot. But you can only do that in a salon that can give you the space.
And I think too, like before I got an Instagram, because I think I've been on here now since maybe 2017. I never took it. I didn't really know what I was doing, with the whole social media thing. And, but I was at my point in my career where I still did a lot of transformations, but my books were filled with tint retouches. Oops. And I wasn't feeling creatively fulfilled. And when I'm not creatively fulfilled, my brain starts wandering, of like, okay, is it time for a change? I don't like change. I like routine, but at the same time, I like change. It's hard to explain. So
I think any hairdressers that are listening will know exactly what that means, right?
Yeah. Yes. And I work with 2 assistants, and one of my newer assistants that I had hired, was showing me a social media of a girl that she had interviewed with. And mine didn't look anything like that. I just kind of posted here and there, but never really took it seriously. And she was showing me it. And I was like, I'm going to need your help. I don't know how to do a story. I don't know, how do we photograph stuff? Because I had an envision in my head, but I didn't know how to go about it, and I'm definitely more of an introverted person. I'm a very private person. I have an extrovert exterior, but I'm definitely very much so introverted. If I'm around people that make me comfortable, I'm much more outgoing. So to put my face on my social media, I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that. There's no way. I can't do that.
And look at you now. Now, right?
Yeah. So Audrey is her name. Actually, she's on the floor now and she's doing so well behind the floor or behind the chair, but she had really inspired me to take social media to the next level. And from that point on, it was game time. And I started watching all of Mary from behind the chair, she would do lives on, what they look for in one shot. And I came across one shot and I was trying to figure out what it was about. And I kept seeing people post. I just didn't know anything about it. And so I watched all of her lives that she would talk about what they were looking for, the different categories. I would go and, people that were entering or the bigger names in the industry, I'd go to their pages and just kind of do like research, I guess you would say, of how do I go about this, And I think the combination of having the motivation to do the social media and then do my research of the know-how, and then really honestly, one shot really made me start branching out into like the social media world, which I needed because I was doing so many tint retouches and haircuts a day, along with other transformations, but it allowed me to feel comfortable posting, work that I did, which drove what I wanted to do behind the chair into my chair.
That's the piece. What you wanted to do, you made happen through your Instagram account because that drove the people into your chair. Yeah.
And I think we get so attached to our clients, and there's such a personable, you build these relationships. And at the time I was doing these clients for 10, 12 years at this point, and it's hard to break those kind of relationships. But at the same time, I wasn't creatively filled in what I wanted to do. And I'm pretty OCD. So if I have a vision of something, I want to portray it how I want to envision it. I won't just start doing something. I have to like research it before, figure out how to do it. So before, really, I was photographing stuff, but I really wanted to have it look very professional, very clean. I didn't know how to edit any of that, but I always had a love for photography. So combining all of those things, it's fun. And I completely transformed my entire clientele within 1 year. I would say 2 max. Within that first year, I couldn't even keep up. I mean, this sounds insane, but it's the truth. And the 2 assistants that assisted me during the time, we would start at 8, 9 o'clock, and there would literally be days that we'd be here till like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Gosh.
Yeah. Creating content. Yeah. So if we were done for the day and the girls wanted their extensions done, we would stay, do it. I'd have them doll up in between, and we'd go and get, pictures of them for my social media. I mean, when I say it was like crazy for like 2-3 years of those hours, it was insane, but I had to do it.
The thing is with Instagram is that everyone kind of thinks you can just take a picture of a client, and it just doesn't work like that. It's a performance to get the picture you want, right? Because it becomes like a magazine shoot, but it's a mini one. And so what you basically did was you started creating content specifically for what you wanted, which is what I do.
Yes.
But you were doing it while you were running a busy column as well, and you were doing it in the evening time, whereas I added it onto a Sunday or a Monday and sort of tried to do it at that point. But it does work. I think for anyone that's struggling with the idea of it out there, you've got to really take it bull by the horns and start figuring out why your photograph doesn't look right. Okay, because it's, sometimes we click and think it looks great as we're looking at it, and then you look at the picture and you're like, so you've got to work out your lighting. You've got to get your angles right. You've got to get the type of people. And I think that's a fantastic takeaway from today. Do the type of people you want on Instagram that you want to bring in.
Yes. And have a vision. I feel like anything that I ever do, like even right now, I'm being so busy and having reels, which I really enjoy doing. But now it's being focused behind the chair. I mean, at one point we could have 5 clients here at one time if I'm doing 3 blonding services, and their highlights aren't done, or I'm root shadowing, and then, 2 tint retouches. I mean, but then on top of that, being fully focused with all of those clients, running 2 assistants, and then creating content, it's like, it's every day is very intense. But a struggle that I'm having currently is having all of these ideas in my head of things that I want to do. And I envision, I can't do them behind the chair. You know what I mean? I have to plan a day, but I have a 3-month-old at home. So, coming on my days off I already work
Hard.
long hours. It's hard. It's very,
Yeah.
very, very hard. And at the time when all this was happening, I have an 8-year-old. So, say he was 4 or 5 at the time. I mean, my husband was just like, I would be like, okay, I'll be home at 9. All right, it's going to be 11. All right, babe, I'll see ya when I see ya.
I'll see you in the morning with a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Like you and I have both been chatting recently because we had this function on Reels where we could edit and speed up. And I think it must have been a tester, right? Because nobody else has really had it. But you and I both had it. And I made fantastic Reels at the beginning of the year. And I didn't have to go out of the app.
No.
And Instagram, if you're listening, which you probably won't be, please bring it back. Because when it disappeared, we were both crying. I mean, honestly, I could make a Reel so quickly.
So fast. And now I have to, which InShot is great. I don't know if you've been working with it.
I'm working with InShot, right? But I lose the quality of the image.
It's not, the clarity is not there.
The 4K disappears, even though they tell you you're staying with 4K. And also, it's just not as slick.
No.
So that's killing me, by the way. We sidetracked slightly on that. But Instagram is so important to our industry that, if you've got that and you're listening, please tell us.
Put it back. Why would you give it and take it away? It's not fair.
Exactly. So you mentioned there, and I mentioned at the beginning, that you've got two youngsters and a very supportive husband by the sound of it, which always makes life easier when they don't mind you doing what you're doing. I think either be on your own or be with somebody who's supportive of you, because that's the best. But I always think that for an industry dominated by women, absolutely dominated, right? There's always the guys at the top there somewhere, but the industry is dominated by women. There really isn't a huge conversation about how you navigate the minefield of having a family, being a great mom, being a great wife, being a great human to yourself, and also being a great hairdresser. There's a lot of roles to play in that.
It absolutely is. Me and my husband were together. We were so both career focused. And it just worked. I could never be with someone that's not career focused, because they would never understand what I'm trying to do, and we never really talked about having kids. We honestly really just never talked about it. Not that neither of us didn't want them, or did want them. We both had goals that were non-negotiable before we even got married, and, then when we decided to, have our son, I kind of I dropped a day. So I was on 5 days, and then I went down to 4, and it was like the perfect schedule: off Sunday, Monday, work Tuesday, Wednesday, off Thursday, work Friday, Saturday. And, and it was going really, really good. And right around that time though, was when I was starting to feel creatively suppressed with what I was doing behind the chair. And the hours just started creeping up on me, of getting longer and longer and longer and more and more. And there was a year, I want to say it was 2019. I want to say it was, because it was the year before the pandemic. I traveled 10 out of the 12 months with education classes and, the one-shot awards and all of that. And with me and my husband both, we kind of almost have to like reel each other back in, like, all right, we're going too hard here. Family's first, and family always comes first, but we can easily go too hard.
I understand that.
It's hard not to,
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a balance. People say, well, find balance. I don't think that exists. You just have to do whatever is best for you and your family, but there's absolutely no possible way it would be done if your significant other wasn't supportive. There's no way.
I spoke to somebody in England in October, a very high-powered woman. Not that it matters whether it is a man or woman, but I think in this conversation, it's important that it's a woman. And I said, I don't understand what work-life balance is. Everyone talks about work-life balance. It's everywhere. It's all over Instagram. Work-life. I said, I don't understand it. And she said, it's really easy to understand, Jack. It's what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, you know, and when you were just talking then, it's like the balance is what works for you and your husband. And one can always reel the other one back in, or you can both be going full time at it, or you can both be sat back and saying, whoa, we're just going to take some time out. That's the balance.
Yeah. And I feel too, you know, being a woman in the industry and having one child, and then I have another one, people always say, well, they're only young once. Oh, okay. So I don't know that they're young once. And there's a lot of judgment placed, I feel, on women. With my son, I came back to work after 6 weeks from having him. And then my daughter, I came back to work after 5 weeks because
that was crazy.
It was, I'm used to it, you know, but I feel like the commentary, which I really don't care what anybody thinks, because I do what's best for me and my family. And both different pregnancies, I had a different experience coming back to work. With my son, it was exciting, but then oh my gosh, I'm leaving my baby, you know? And then this one, I knew with my daughter, I knew what to expect coming back. But I was more so anticipating, how is this going to work? Because I do work long hours. You know, we pretty much work 9 to 9 a couple of days a week. And then my hours are shorter the other days. And it was the anticipation of, and then also, you know, dealing with, you know, everyone was getting sick at the time, because I came back December 6th. I had her on November 2nd.
Yeah.
So it was actually a little shy of 5 weeks. But also everyone was getting COVID. Everyone's getting sick. They're getting the flu. And I'm like, oh my, I have to leave my newborn baby. And everyone and their mother is getting COVID right now. Like, I can't bring this home, you know? So the fear of that. But then once I kind of just was like, that's just life, and that's just what we have to do. And I have a huge support system at home too. We have a nanny. And then I also have my mother-in-law who watches my kids too.
But also it's the other piece, right? That if you're making a lot of money and there are no benefits in place for you after the baby, nobody's going to pay the bills. The government's not going to pay your bills to have a baby, you know. And if you're bringing in a nice big wad of cash, do you give that up? And then the kids suffer in some other way, or do you find a way in which to do it all right, which is what mothers have to do all the time.
Yes. And I tell people, I didn't spend 14 years building such an amazing business, you know, behind the chair to say bye. And I love my kids, and my kids come first, but I can't be the mother that I am if I don't have my career, you know. I love to work. I love to hustle. I have visions. I have goals. I have things that I want to do. I mean, when I was on maternity leave, I was like creating like plaster, you know, artwork for my house, because I have to keep my hands busy, you know. And I love my kids. And when I'm home, you know, and when they're in bed, I'm creating content. You know, it's, unless you're in the position of being a high producer behind the chair, and you want to maintain that, I can't really relate to people, and they can't relate to me, because they don't know why I do what I do. You know what I mean?
I think it's okay that people don't relate to any of us, right? If you don't relate to me, that's absolutely fine. But don't put yours on me, right? And it's those microaggressions that we can get for doing us from other people that can't do them, right? Or they're doing them, but they think we should be doing them. I don't like those microaggressions. I just find it really annoying.
Yeah. And I find too, you know, coming back to work after 5 weeks, and the same things were said, you know, with my first pregnancy. And I guess I've kind of just always done me, and I, you know, certain things people say can resonate with you and might sit with you longer than they should, you know? And then, you know, mother to mother, I think there's judgment placed, you know, whether if it's a stay-at-home mom, or they only work part-time, or they say, you know, I want to be home raising my kids. You know, it's those kind of things that are said to you. And I don't think it's necessarily intentionally trying to hurt you. It's just they're giving their perspective on how they raise their children. But for me,
I also think that when people say those kind of things, what they're trying to do is validate what they're doing, right? Because if you're
Yes.
secure with what you're doing, you don't need to say, you don't need to comment on what somebody else is doing. You don't need to
No,
compare
absolutely
yourself
not.
in
Absolutely
anything.
not. Hmm.
Yeah.
I have my sister, my older sister has 4 kids, and she's been a stay-at-home mom, and she's a CPA. She has her accounting degree, and she chose to stay home with her kids. And that's been her dream her entire life. And she's one, phenomenal mother. But she has 4 kids. And for her, there was no room in there to work all these years. Now her oldest is 17 now, and she does work a little bit here and there,
Yeah.
part-time. But now it's getting busier and busier. With me, just working was never not an option. And it's not even necessarily for a financial standpoint. It's for my brain. Like I need it, and I find that I'm a better mother, to my now kids, which is still crazy to say, because I'm using my God-given talent, and I'm using my ability to create every single day,
And you're also showing, I think that we show our children our own sort of morality and our own way of living, right? We show them our values, and your values include getting up and turning up and going after what you want, right? Which you can be a great mom, a great partner,
absolutely,
a great hairdresser, and still look after yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, there's going to be struggles in the process of it. You're going to battle yourself in, whether it's a couple times a year, once a month, once a year. When I was doing those crazy hours, those couple of years, it took me a minute to see, and I couldn't quite figure out why my son was, not wanting to go to school. I think he was in kindergarten at the time. And he would, when I would bring him to school, he would cry, he would throw a fit, and it was all of a sudden. And it took me a minute to realize, he's doing this because I was gone once a month on the weekends, traveling for education, taking classes. And it was his way of lashing out because I wasn't as present, for a while. I mean, it was from, say, January till September, October, I think it started, but he started school in September. So then it was like, okay, now I'm taking this. I need to take a step back. I need to take a few months off of, traveling for education, and really use those weekends and be present, because it clearly was too much for my son with me being gone during the week. And then even though it was on a weekend, you don't realize that you're affecting them, but
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I wouldn't take any of it back, because now he's 8 years old, and we had the conversations of, if you want something, you have to work for it. And if you have to work 15 hours a day, you have to do that. You also have to take care of yourself. But I think I always try to figure out how to make it a learning lesson, but now he understands, you know what I mean? And he sees his mom doing it. And whether when he grows and he decides whomever he's going to marry, if he wants to stay at home mom because he envisions that for his family, great. If he decides to marry someone like his mom, someone that just will do anything to meet her goals.
Or
great.
Amber, maybe he wants to be a stay-at-home dad, right?
That's right.
I mean, you can be whatever you want to be.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now, let's turn this all round to the conversation to BTC, right? How important has entering BTC been for you personally as a hairdresser? And how important has it been to be nominated for you professionally as well?
So BTC, like before I started entering, I was watching people do it. And, putting yourself out online is very scary, and from not really posting to like entering a competition. And I love photography, but I never had the means of doing it, before I went to beauty school. And then you're in beauty school, and I just chose to focus strictly on that. So now I'm at a point in a pivot in my career where I can combine both of them, right? And she has created such an amazing platform for artists to share their work that's not editorial, like NAHA, which has always been a dream of mine to enter. But now I have something that I can actually do, and enter into something that I'm doing every single day behind the chair. It has given me so much drive. I'm trying to find the correct words, so much drive and so much ambition. But in return of that has grown my business unexpectedly in a different way.
How did that happen? Explain that to me.
So I think that when I was telling you, I was working like 9 a.m. to, 1, 2 in the morning. I mean, that was at least 1 or 2 days a week for an entire 2 years. You do these, client wants highlights and, they're not booked fit. Okay, well, we'll book you next time. Oh no, that wasn't happening. You want those today? We're going to do them, because I wanted the photo. It wasn't even about the money. I wanted the photo. And I would, shuffle my day when you have like 12, 13 clients, 14 at the time is what I was doing. And 5 of those are huge transformations. And the rest of them are either a couple highlights or a tint retouch or a double process at that. I literally would have done anything for a photo. I didn't care. So, or, someone brought a picture in of what they wanted to do and you made it happen, whether it was a 10-hour transformation, a 6-hour transformation. The only thing I couldn't do was extension. So in return of that, now I'm adding more services to my day, even though I would be working way too many hours. It made me get more what I wanted in my chair because I was posting that work. So then those larger services were larger tickets. And then the more extensions I posted, I was getting more extension transformations. So in return, it literally I just watched my career, skyrocket into somewhere where I've always envisioned of being, but I knew it was possible. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. And it was all from one shot and posting my work online. It's crazy actually on how much I grew my business in a fiscal year. It's
amazing. It's an amazing story. And I see that you've entered already. So I'm hoping to see you there. I'm going to wish you good luck with that one, right?
Yeah. This past year, last year, I found out I was pregnant. I think it was in February, and I was sick. I was so sick with this pregnancy. And during that time, I had lost my longtime assistant that was with me for 3 years. And then I started working with an assistant that had never assisted me before. So here I am getting sick in between every client. I'd have to keep stepping away to go to the bathroom. And it was awful. And then now I'm working with someone that I've never worked with, and only one. And I always work with 2 assistants. So I pretty much had to set all extras aside and just focus on what I was doing behind the chair. So the typical content I would have, I don't. But we're keeping high hopes here for a nomination. But if I don't, it's no worries. There's always next year to create more. But
there's always next year. But you're going, right? We'll be at the pool.
Oh, I'm going either way.
Oh, exactly. So I'm going. Yeah. I've got 3 entries that I'm just faffing around with at the moment, and that's it. Because again, I've moved countries and, starting a new job here and whatever, but I've got some content that I did just before I left London that I'd totally forgotten about. And I'm like, oh my God, that fits into the time frame.
Right.
And I'm going to give it a bash, right? Because it's I love a little competition and I feel that they're good enough to enter. That's the piece, right? Because competition is so tough in that I didn't want to just
put through the work.
Yes. Oh. Yeah. I know. I'm like, oh my God. Talk about, yeah. So it's cool.
It's amazing. I looked through and I'm like, okay, all right. It's even stepped up more a notch since the last couple of years. Yeah.
Which is great because it gives you a challenge. And I think 2022, we are back, right? We are back.
100%. Yep.
Amber, I just loved talking to you today. I love the drive. I love the ambition. I love I love the fact that you're just such a powerhouse. Yeah, I can just chat away to you. Look, oh, I've just got these shoes.
I know.
Get this. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we can message each other, and we can laugh and all of that. But I've admired you from the day I met you, because I just felt that power, and I'm so thrilled that you said yes to coming on the show, because
I'm honored.
I think you're really inspirational, and I hope that you inspire more people as you go on your journey.
Thank you so much, Jack. It was a pleasure being on here. Much of an honor, actually.
Let's have cocktails at the pool.
Heck
You can this year.
That's right.
Yeah.